Welcome to our Candidates Forum. This is presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and the Doty Island Development Council. This event is being recorded and will be available shortly on YouTube. Please check the League Facebook page at LWV Winnebago County for links. I am Margie Davey, the President of the League of Women Voters and tonight's moderator. We seek to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We never support nor oppose any political party or candidate, and we welcome everyone. If interested, you can learn how to join at lwvwinnebago.org or by asking any of our members who are here tonight. In addition to organizing forums like this, the local league also hosts monthly presentations that are timely and informative. Some of our upcoming speakers will discuss the County Community Health Assessment and Improvement Plan. An attorney who handled the Fair Maps case will be here from Madison to share, and we'll be learning what Tri-County Dental does. We're kind of all over the place with issues. The League holds voter outreach events to help people register to vote, request an absentee ballot, and find their polling place. We also provide information on current issues. We regularly partner with other nonpartisan organizations on events to expand our local reach and meet with school district and government officials to share ideas on how we can best serve our communities. How can you learn about what we're doing? Well, we publish a monthly newsletter and we have an active Facebook page. You can also go to our website at lwvwinnebago.org. Just a reminder, early in-person absentee voting allows voters who cannot reach their polling place on election day to vote beforehand. Check with your city or town clerk for early voting availability and hours. The League of Women Voters facilitates vote411.org, an online candidate and voter resource where all candidates for all races are invited to answer questions. When you, the voter, put in your address, you learn which races will be on your ballot, which candidates are running for each office, and candidate responses to the questions. If there are no responses, that means the candidate chose not to participate. We encourage you to then reach out directly. Candidates are applying for a job, and every voter should know how they plan to do that job. We call this being an informed voter. We also encourage you to visit myvote.wi.gov to check your voting status and for more information. And it is important, even if you've been registered for years and are a consistent voter, do check your voting status before the election. Please turn off your electronic devices. No audience recording is allowed since we're recording this. And tonight we have two candidates who are competing for District 1 Alderman, Mark Ellis and Kristen Sandvik. And two candidates, Jeffrey Linsky and Bill Paulno, are competing for Alderman for District 3. Joining me on the panel is Karen Schneider, publisher of the Neenah News and the Oshkosh Herald. Public questions were solicited in advance. Those of you in the audience may also submit questions on the cards provided. A league member will come and get them if you just wave them in the air. Questions must be for all candidates and may not single out a candidate. Questions may be edited for brevity and clarity, and while we hope to cover as many as we can, we may not have enough time for all. Candidates, please keep your answers concise so that we can cover as many topics as possible. Our timekeeper, who's going to wave at you now, will give you cues. Please heed the stop sign so I don't have to cut you off, okay? Concise answers will allow time for more questions. This is not a debate. You will each be given the same amount of time for each question. And now we'll start with opening statements. You will each have 2 minutes to summarize your background, qualifications, and your motivation to run for office. Why should voters choose you over your opponent? And we will start with you, Jeff.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County for hosting this forum, and also thanks to the City of Neenah for hosting the event here in City Hall. And also thanks to all those attending tonight. My name is Jeffrey Linsky. I'm currently running to fill the position of Alderperson in District 3, replacing Todd Severson, who did not seek re-election this spring. Todd has served his community for over 34 years. Yes, I think we have some big shoes to fill. Thank you to Todd for your dedicated service to the City of Neenah. I, along with my wife, have been a Neenah resident for the past 10 years, and I have watched as the city has grown and changed into a community I am proud to call a home. I am committed to this community. Not only do I live in the community, but I also firmly believe it is my civic duty to be an active member of it. I am excited for the opportunity, if elected, to fill this position. While I have not held any elected public offices, I do have experience serving in various leadership roles by serving in the military for over 24 years and as aircraft maintenance manager. Like I said, Neenah is a place where people have wanted to live and raise their children. I am committed to investing in the future Neenah that works for all Neenah residents. I would like to give something back to my home community and believe the best way to improve your community is to get involved and be that special person who puts the city of Neenah first. And representing District 3 as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Bill?
Thank you. My name is William Paulno Jr., and I go by that full long name because it's out of respect for my father. And I also, when I originally moved to Neenah about 30 years ago, I kept getting confused with Bill Paul, and people kept asking me about clothing. So that's just... I still, use that moniker for those reasons. I've been a resident of Neenah for 30 years. I live with my beautiful wife, Michelle, and we've had a blended family. I have 2 stepdaughters who are adult stepdaughters, and my son, Nathan, and Megan and Gretchen. And also I have 3 grandsons who their best activity involves a utility box. That was the best present we ever got them, for an old appliance box. They used and beat on that for weeks. Originally, I grew up in southwest Wisconsin, and a little town you haven't heard of, probably Lafarge, Wisconsin. I graduated with a class of 28. And after when I graduated, then I went into the Air Force, where I served during Desert Shield, Desert Storm engagement. And then I was stationed in California. And once I left the service, I decided to go to tech school in Madison. And then I graduated the tech school, moved to some place called Neenah about 30 years ago, and I've been here ever since. I have I work on a rental apartment business. I had that for 20 years, and just recently I decided to start last year a home building business, because I think, homes are what people need to live in, not housing units. I think housing units are for cats and dogs and pigs and cattle. I think we need to focus that on homes. And I really feel a passion for the city of Neenah. I've been an alderman previously in District 1 from 2012 to 2018 for 6 years, and I also served on the Winnebago Board County Supervisors. So I have a passion to get involved on the civic level, because I think that's an important aspect of any community, and that's why I want to run again for City Council.
Thank you, Bill. Or William, whichever you prefer. Kristen?
All right. I want to start with saying thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Doty Island Development Council for organizing this opportunity to introduce myself to voters. I also want to say thank you to my friends and family for their unwavering support. And I'm going to use this time to tell you a little about myself and my why. A little while back, I was listening to a podcast interview, and there was one quote that has stuck with me since. The past is important, but the future is more. Creating a community that is sustainable and an enjoyable place to live, and that will continue to be for generations to come, is my biggest reason why. My husband, David, and I have 2 children. They are 12 and 9. When I'm not campaigning, you can find me on the front porch with David, baking, puzzling, gardening, running, biking with my family and friends, or hunting for mushrooms while out for a hike. If the weather is nice, chances are you'll find me out of doors. I can also be found sitting on bleachers to cheer on my gymnast or my judo players. I also work as a lead teacher in the Growth and Development Department at the Neenah Menasha YMCA. I've been there for 6 years in total. Every day at work, I practice my patience and creative problem solving by working with toddlers and preschoolers. One of the reasons I love my job is that I get to interact and grow with families in and around Neenah. I have been a homeschool parent and an administrator for our small homeschool co-op for about 8 years. And this also has given me the opportunity to collaborate with families throughout the Fox Valley and practice out of the box thinking to fit our ever-changing needs. I am running for city council because our community is important to me. I will emphasize responsible and sustainable use of our funds and collaborate with my colleagues to find solutions to issues. My bachelor's degree is in sociology, and my advisor once told me, sociology doesn't really qualify you for anything, but it kind of qualifies you for everything.
Thank you, Kristen. Mark.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the League. I'd like to thank DIDC. I'd like to thank the city of Neenah. I'd like to thank my wife for allowing me to do this once again. I was first elected to the city council in the 1980s, came back in the 1990s, and here I am again, folks. I was 25 when I was first elected. I'm 68 today, and I hope to God I've learned something in between. The reasons that I look to getting back into it is I have watched the city over the years from the days when I was looking at the mayors from Carl Lanning all the way through of all the neat things that this city has done. And in my tenure on the city council way back when, first district was where I was, where I hope to be again, was the downtown area. And it was in a state of disrepair. And under the leadership of Mayor Jim Carpenter, Bob Buckingham, who was our Director of Community Development, myself, who was the mouthpiece for the business district and the citizens, we created this downtown that we have today. And we utilized many tools that came from the private and the public sector. And part of that was the TIF districts, which have benefited everybody across the board. In those roles that I had when I served here in the city, I virtually sat on every committee. Aside from that, in the private sector, I have served on about a half a dozen nonprofit board of directors. All of them were geared towards helping at-risk youth. I was proud to be a big brother in the Big Brothers organization. I was also proud of helping develop some of the fun things that we've done in the city of Neenah, like the Mayor's Charity Golf Outing, Boo Fest, and volunteered for the plethora of everything else. So I come back here today at this tender age to say, I like where the city's going. There's always things that need to get done that you need to balance between the private and the public sector, fact. And what I want to do is to make sure we marry those two together in Neenah's future growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Now we will ask public policy questions submitted in advance or by the public tonight at the forum. You will each have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question, and we will give the first question to you, Mark. And Karen would love to read that.
I will.
All right.
Okay, here we go. So it's multi-part, so if you need me to reread anything, just let me know. What are you doing to prepare yourself to step in the job of Neenah City Council member on day one? What type of learning curve do you anticipate? And of course, if elected, which committees are you most interested in being a member of?
Great question in all three parts. My preparation has been what it has always been. I've had communication with some of the department folks here at City Hall. I've talked to folks within the district into itself, some of the businesses downtown, and staying on board with understanding what is in the future so we can be a part of it. One of the biggest questions people like to have is, well, are you going to vote for this or are you going to vote for that? Because there are some of those issues coming up. And the truth be told, I would say no, not yet, because as a doctor would once say, if you give a prescription without a diagnosis, you're malpractice. So what I would do to prepare is to study on those issues and then to get that feedback. And I think that's the direction that we need to take.
Thank you. Did you mention which committees you were most interested in?
Interesting enough, I've served on all of them, not a big deal. I would enjoy any one of those. One of my favorite committees when I was here the last time was the old Cable TV Ad Hoc Committee, where we were actually able to fend off 2 rate increases from Time Warner. That's when the city still had teeth. I enjoyed the heck out of that. So from a committee standpoint, it really doesn't make a difference. Wherever they feel that I can best serve, Since I've sat in those seats before, I would be honored to do that again.
Thank you, Mark. Are we going straight down the row?
We should.
All right, Kristen.
Okay, to prepare myself, I have been doing my own research. I subscribe to all of the committee agendas and minutes, so I get an email alert and I go in and read all of those. And I've been attending committee meetings and city council meetings. I also have been talking to people at their doors, trying to find out what they think. They don't always feel like having a conversation when I'm there, but I always ask them to reach out if they have things they want to talk about. And as far as the committees that I would be most interested in, I think all of them would be interesting and fun. I would be very interested in the Sustainability Committee. I'd be very interested in Parks and Rec, Public Safety. Also, this is kind of for my grandpa. I'd be interested in the Waterworks one because he retired as the head of the Milwaukee Public Works Department. And he always told us that Neenah and Menasha had the best tasting water. Apparently they do taste tests, and we had good water up here. So that's that. I think I got all the parts.
I think so. Thank you, Kristen. William.
Thank you. I think the best way to get ready for an aldermanic position is to do the research. There's plans, there's studies, there's the meeting agendas, there's the meeting minutes. You know, that's the meat and potatoes of being an alderman, is doing the work. I mean, the Neenah Next plan is 120 pages. You know, they have the parking study from 2021. That was about 90 pages. There's all kinds of studies to get the back history of that. And then also, because we will be working for the constituents, when, as Kristen said, when you're going to the doors, I've been asking everybody, you know, what would you like to see changed and done differently in Neenah? And I know it's not probably juicy enough, but there's a lot of people in Neenah that say things are going fine and they can't really think anything. You know, there's the speed, you know, situation where most people think people that are in front of their house are going too fast. But, you know, to do the research is to listen to the people that you'll be working for, which are the constituents. That's where I think you get most of what you need to have happen. And then to do the due diligence of the homework. And there's quite a lot of homework as an alderman. I think it's really pertinent and really important to do all of that so you can have a well-balanced discussion among professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, William. And
Yeah,
Jeff?
as all the rest of the constituents up here have said, you know, basically to prepare yourself, attend meetings, that are going on already, you know, in the past here to kind of learn what's going on. Reviewing all the committee notes and do your homework and, find all you can. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the computer kind of looking at different notes and from different council meetings. I even look at other ones to kind of learn what other cities are kind of doing as well to try to draw that into what we're going to do here. And as far as committees, I would say public safety and parks and rec. I mean, I'm a big outdoors fan as well, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with the next question, we're going to go to Kristen first. This is like a three-part question submitted. So list two of Neenah's greatest assets, two of its biggest challenges, and explain what city government's role is in addressing those challenges.
Okay. Neenah's best assets, I would say, are our community, the people that are here. When I'm out for a run, everybody waves or says hi, gives me a nod. It's a really, really great thing. And also, I think that our current parks and our water are another great asset that we have here in Neenah. And then it was two challenges. I think two challenges. One, and actually I think both of these probably are not specific to Neenah. They would be found in a lot of places. Preparing for global climate change, preparing for this weather, the changing weather patterns is going to be something that we will need to be prepared for. And also finding housing that is affordable to live in is also another pretty big issue. And I think both of those things can be addressed by city council pretty easily. Well, not easily, that's the wrong word, but I think that that city council would play an important role in that.
Okay, thank you. William?
Thank you. I'm glad that Kristen went first on that one. She did an awesome job. Two aspects, or the two things I think the best assets for the city of Neenah are definitely, I would agree with the people. You know, I've been doing a lot of doors and visiting a lot of people, and it's amazing how many people have been in this community 30, 40, 50, 60, even 70 years, you know, and they've been in the same house. So I think that's our equity as a community. You know, another asset, I mean, there's a lot of assets. You know, we have some, if you look at whether it's the new ice rink downtown, I mean, that's an asset, or the people willing to put that together, or there's a long list of things I could go with, but, you know, the business owners, you know, are another asset. But in the some of the challenges, I think the challenges are identifying wants versus needs. That's always a challenge because the wants list seem to get bigger, you know, and the needs list also get bigger, so we have to balance that. And I think another challenge is how do you communicate that to people and to each other in this environment where we're in TikTok nation and everybody wants to have a soundbite and a bullet point, and true communication and true discussion, even debate, is lacking in supply. And I think the best way to address that is to, at least in the government level, is to utilize the process and make it about the issues or the facts or the analytical data and not about each other and emotions, because that's when it becomes an argument and we get pithy and we get animosity toward each other, and we don't need that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
All right, that's a great question. I guess for the Neenah's greatest assets, I would have to say downtown and the community. Not being from Neenah, born and raised here, I mean, I've lived all over the United States, all over different countries. I can have to say the downtown is by far one of the best ones that I have seen and lived in. I mean, we do spend quite a bit of time downtown at the local businesses. And then along with the community, as Kristen said, I mean, you drive around town here and there's people waving to you all over. You know, I'm from Milwaukee, you drive down there and there ain't nobody waving to you. So I do that. And two challenges, again, affordable housing, make affordable housing for all. We got a lot of high-end houses. I think we just need to get more affordable. And then the parking downtown, with the downtown growth and having, so much to do downtown, does create a parking issue, I believe. So I know we've talked about the parking garage, building that, but I hope we can go forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark?
Thank you. I'm going to kind of answer this in a two-part as well. I like this whole idea. I think the two biggest areas, first is the private-public partnership that Neenah has enjoyed from day one. And because of that, my number two is a healthy tax base. We would not have the healthy tax base if it were not for the private and the public partnership that Neenah's been blessed with over the decades and decades and decades. Because we have the amenities that come in to the city, such as, as alluded to, the skating rink and all these other fine things that happen, the industrial park, the school system, the police and fire. That's all the private-public partnership. Many cities are not blessed with folks that will step up from both of those factions to make it happen. The challenges, in my opinion, is the way that we communicated back and forth. This is not to throw a stone at City Hall. I think they do a great job. I think the council does the best that they can. There are some things that we can always do to tweak. Back when I was on the city council in the 80s and the 90s, I was the second council member to do something that hasn't been done since. I held regular office hours. I would do that again. I had many people that would come from outside my Aldermanic district because they didn't know who their councilman was. And we would talk and we would share information with each other. And I think that's part of that private-public partnership that we can enhance even further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and this one, if there's nobody to follow, William, this one's all on you to start with. So here we go. If you were to become a council member, how will you balance the need for affordable housing with concerns from neighboring residents that new apartments or crimes could bring crime? And second part, what should the city be doing to attract developers to build affordable housing in Neenah?
Well, having been in apartments business for 20 years and then starting a home building business, I definitely am familiar with, the housing discussion, which I like to call the home discussion in Neenah, as far as how to address that conversation, it sounds like, how do you defray the concerns that folks might have that certain apartment complexes could bring strife, as I understand the question. I guess that's all relative. I have faith in our, first off, the council to properly weigh it, and then I have faith in our police department to adequately address it if need be. And if they need more tools, we can always give them the tools. As far as developers, I think a good development climate comes from a working, knowledgeable government, elected officials in cooperation and communication with, like, community development authority or community development department, with not a lot of roadblocks and not a lot of snarky kind of ordinances that might be a hindrance to them. I think, it gives that gives a good environment that they know they'll get a sound listening to when they come forward with their project.
Thank you. Jeff?
Could you repeat the first part of that question? I didn't.
Sure. If you were to become a council member, how will you balance the need for affordable housing with concerns from neighboring residents that new apartments or homes could bring crime?
I guess we would have to start off with with the police department patrolling the areas better, or if there is a need for it. I mean, not saying, I guess not be negative if you bring different housing in here, that would be problems. I mean, I wouldn't say that would be the problem with it, I wouldn't say, and then as far as attracting developers, I just got to make it attractive for them to build, give them maybe, some type of incentives that, hopefully it's not going to cost the city too much money, but to come in and build more affordable housing. And I think we could even attract developers to take some of the houses we do have that need repair and actually, I wouldn't say flip them per se, but make them more sellable.
Okay.
That'd be all
Thank
I'd
you.
have.
Okay. Mark?
Okay. In my opinion, we've had the luxury of having really good developers come in and work in the city of Neenah. We need to remember, folks, that we're not an island, though I live on one, that we are competing with a bunch of communities for developers to come in. Neenah has never had subdivisions of apartment, single-family, multifamily, where we've had an incursion of drugs and other illegal activities. You will find them from time to time anywhere within the city. But I will tell you that we have been blessed with how do we attract those folks. We say more yes than we say no. We are blessed to have a community development that is always looking at the big picture for the city of Neenah to make sure that when someone's looking to come in, that we've got a great tax base, that we have got jobs, that we've got a quality of life. These are all the things that a developer looks for because they're going to need to fill those housing needs. And whether it be single family, multifamily, a little bit lower on the income or upper income, in my eyes, all are welcome in Neenah.
Thank you, Mark. Kristen?
Okay, I think how I would address those concerns would be having conversations. Sometimes they might not be fun conversations. Sometimes it might just mean that somebody has to yell at me for a little while, but I have a 9-year-old daughter, so I can take it. And I think just having a conversation about who actually would utilize affordable housing. As far as any of the federally funded affordable housing programs, they're going to need an income. You can't have a felony. There are requirements that they would have to fit. So having those conversations about who actually would utilize it, I think would be an important part. And then can you remind me of the second piece of that?
Sure.
Thank you.
The second part is, what should the city be doing to attract developers to build affordable housing?
Right. So this is not my forte. This is not a strength that I have, but I think offering incentives, finding ways to make Neenah an attractive place to live by bringing in jobs for people to have. We would be bringing in more people who would be interested in purchasing or utilizing rentals. Those are just a couple ideas I have off the top of my head.
Thank you. It's a tough question. So
We've gone full circle again.
here we go.
Okay, this one goes to you first, Mark. The question is written as our neighbor to the south, Oshkosh. Being from Oshkosh, I'm going to say, Oshkosh makes a practice of encouraging city residents to serve on boards and committees. Do you think this is a good idea for Neenah?
That's for me.
Did I say Mark?
You said Mark, and I
Wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm looking at
go to Mark too.
Mark too. Yeah, let's go to Jeff down there.
One more time with the question, please.
Okay. Oh, if it's going to be right away, you want to. Okay. Okay. Oshkosh makes a practice of encouraging city residents to serve on boards and committees. Do you think this is a good idea for Neenah to do also?
Well, being military, I didn't have a lot of choices sometimes to serve on different committees or different panels or different things like that. I'm a firm believer, it's kind of your duty to, be engaged in the city that you live in. So I'd have to say yes. They should be, I'd not say forced, but encouraged to come out and support, and support the community you live in. And if you want to make, people sit back and complain about things people are doing, but if you want to help or change things, you need to get off the couch and, come make a difference.
Having personally served over 25 years on committees, some of those concurrently, I will say they are all volunteers. It's just people that want to do that, so you're not forced. You're just stupid sometimes, but
Now, let me ask
Mark.
you the next question. Yes, I'm Mark. There's the sign. Anyway, you're saying that they would be a part of the elected body committees, or
no, in Oshkosh where they have, for example, I serve on the sustainability board.
Sure.
It's a separate
okay.
committee that advises.
Got it. From that standpoint, the city of Neenah has that already. We have many folks that have served. Matter of fact, current Alderman Lee Hillstrom, prior to being on the city council, Lee served on our cable TV ad hoc committee with me in the private sector. I supported, and I'll just keep this brief. The more folks like yourselves, like these great folks, like these folks, that engage into the process, even if it's to step in and say, I will do it for this period of time or that period of time, because I want to help make the community better. It's a win-win-win. So from that standpoint, I would absolutely encourage it.
Thank you. Kristen?
I'll be pretty brief. As Mark said, Neenah does already have that, and yes, I absolutely support it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Nice and short.
Bill,
If I understand the question, you said, should we advocate for that?
do you think this is a good idea for Neenah?
I think it's what we do now, and I think it's a great idea. I served before I was even alderman. The first time I was on the water board or the water commission, and I think it's a hugely beneficial thing to do for your community, so you can weigh in with different perspectives. Because it's always, you come in with one opinion, or there's another opinion, and then you get like-minded, professional, courteous people to get together in a group, and all of a sudden you have a better opinion or a better path. And I think that comes from civic engagement and how people can contribute their life experiences to make it a much better answer. So I think it's definitely a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with you, Kristen.
Okay.
This one's a little easier.
I think this one's Mark's, actually.
I'm sorry.
The other Mark, the real one.
Mark?
Mark.
She's confusing me. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
If we switch chairs,
Kristen,
you
you get to
next.
think a little bit more on this one.
All right. I can
Okay, Mark. Mark.
Mark.
Here we go. What are your thoughts on our current debt, and what do you think we can do to control debt while providing for the city?
I think we're doing all the right things already, and I know that for some of the folks that I've talked to, they don't think that that's a solid of enough answer. But I will tell you, that's where we need to go into an education mode to help from ignorance to education. Ignorance does not mean anything negative. It's just that there is a long and lengthy process that not only the mayor, but the department heads and some of the outstanding committees go through to look for balancing our debt level and where we stand. And that's why we have plans such as the 5-year capital improvement plan, which you can't spend a penny of that. That's future we hope to have. You can only really spend the 1 year out, all right? However, that's part of the moniker that goes to say, how do we leverage, as we've heard before, the wants and the needs? The wants and needs are leveraged by having those tools, by having those committees dig into that. When people say, how do we grow our tax base? That's a part of this revenue. To get the businesses in here, we have to make it attractive at many different levels. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. It's perfectly flawed. But that's part of what makes this constitutional republic work well, is the fact that we are always striving to make it better. But if any one person thinks that there's skullduggery at City Hall, all right, I'll tell you right now, you don't.
Thank you, Mark. You're out of time.
Yes, I am.
All right, Kristen.
Yes, will you repeat it for me
Sure.
just real quick?
What are your thoughts on the current debt, and what do you think we can do to control debt while providing for the city?
I think, like Mark said, we're doing all right. I think that where we are right now, as with so much of the rest of the country, is recovering from COVID, and inflation prices have caught us all pretty off guard. It's been, I know just we're looking at redoing our family bathroom right now, and it's going to be way more than what it would have been 10 years ago if we had just done it right away. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to finding balance, right? Balance is always hard to do. Sometimes it means making hard decisions. Nobody likes making hard decisions. Nobody likes making decisions that might make people upset, but sometimes they are what is needed. And then the other, we're looking at growing the tax base. You either are going to grow out or you're going to grow up. One of the things that I think Neenah is doing really, really well is the for Houses into Homes program that is going to start on Doty Island to help increase property values for current homeowners. And that's about sums up my thoughts on it.
Thank you. William.
Thank you. I have a lot of concerns about our debt level because part of my research, because I'm kind of a financial wonk. I mean, I was chairman of the finance committee when I was last alderman, and I was just reading the debt levels of the city of Neenah. And from 2006 to 2018, the general obligation debt bounced from 45 million to 48 million. From 2018 to 2024, that debt went to $95 million. So we've doubled our debt, and we have a estimated debt in 2027 of $112 million. That's almost 100% increase in general obligation debt in a very short period of time. That's gravely concerning to me, and that's one of the reasons, it's in the details. It's in reading that, it's right in the budget book of 2024. So I'm not making these numbers up, and that's generally concerning to me because that comes with debt service, and that squeezes our debt levy, and that's a direct component to why and how we would possibly end what keeps taxes higher and not being able to lower taxes. I guess nobody says that nowadays, but I would advocate to try to at least have a goal to lower property taxes. So I am greatly concerned about that.
Okay. Thank you, William. Jeff.
I guess I'll be the opposite of that one. I mean, I believe the city's doing a good job in controlling the debt. I'm not, like I said, I'm new to this, so I mean, I don't maybe have all the records I need to look at, or I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I think we're doing well. I mean, we're not constantly raising taxes that I know of. Yeah, I think that's all I really have a comment on that.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, this time we'll start with you, Kristen.
Okay. For real this time?
For real this time. How will you ensure you hear diverse voices and opinions within the district?
I will actively seek out people's opinions. I've gathered that people don't really want to have those conversations at the door, but I really hope to be available. When I ran the first time, I used to do walk and talks where people could meet me, and we would, like, the idea was go for a walk because it was 2022 and I didn't want people to feel like they didn't want to go in an enclosed space yet coming out of COVID. And I haven't started that back up yet because there wasn't a lot of turnout, generally speaking, but I would be happy to start something like office hours again.
Thank you.
I think the definition of integrity is to treat everybody the same. And that's how I always talk. I always say that I talk the same on my front porch as I do in the city council, as I do in my business. So I don't really look at anybody any different. So to categorize people as diverse, I don't even really know what that means. I guess I'm not hip with the new terms. So I just do what I usually do. I talk to people the same with respect and courtesy and the same all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess on that, I would, like I said, listen to all opinions. Get out and talk to people. I enjoy walking around downtown, farmers markets, even down to all the parks, just talking to the people, listening to what their opinions are and what they bring. And also, I'd be available by phone or email. I mean, our number would be published out there, I'm sure, and I'm sure we get tons of phone calls and be available. I wouldn't say 24 hours a day, but medium business hours would be nice. But I would certainly take a phone call at midnight if need be, and the problem arose. I would take care of it. Thank you.
Thanks. Mark?
Again, I will just state that I would reactivate the ward meetings that I used to have. And that was a trick that I learned from my brother Mike when he served on the city council in the late 60s. He used to hold them at a little place on the island called the Drugstore. And it had a soda fountain, and Saturday mornings, that was the place to go and meet and have conversation. And I mostly would do mine here in the Hauser room at City Hall on a Saturday with coffee and donuts and such. And that went for business. That went for any of the citizens, in or out of the district. And I would just, I would continue to do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, this one's going to William, correct? Okay, I got it right. Thank goodness. All right, William, we're going to start with you. Do you know who decides and what their criteria is to get a new road if my road is full of potholes? And how do we find out when or if my road will be redone?
Well, the roads are typically laid out in a 5-year capital plan. And the first, I've been advocating for people to call, if they're in doubt, they can call City Hall, but they should really contact their alderman and have their alderman educate them about the process, because I think the process is important, so they can point out if their road is on the capital improvement plan, and if not, then I would probably work with them to contact the Public Works Department to see why it is or why it isn't on that plan, to educate them about the real, not to get too much into the weeds, but some people think their road is worse than anybody's. And just like some people think everybody that goes in front of their house is the fastest that there possibly can be. And there's a balance there. So I think if you show them facts and some evidence, I think that goes a long ways to rest people that there are people looking at these things, and it's just not throwing a dart at a dartboard, where some people, when you talk to, that's what they think happens in the black box that's City Hall. That there's no thought behind it, and it's just a guessing game.
Thank you, William. Jeff?
Yeah, I would say, contact their alderman if they don't know who that is. I'm certain they can call any alderman, I'm sure, and then we will point them in the right direction, I'm sure. And if that doesn't work, I'm sure they could call City Hall. I mean, there's numbers on the internet out there to look to see who to call for different things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mark?
Thank you. Basically, what has been said is what is. And, if you go to the Public Works Department and Community Development and the finance, internally there are matrices for kind of like a mash unit for which ones get done and when and where. And there's a lot of that number crunching going on. But to the point that we've said with the general public, It's just a question of making the conversation and educating without insulting, so folks know that they're only going to be angry for another 2 years before their street get done. I mean, my wife and I only waited 35 hours, so it got done a couple of years ago, and that was swell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Kristen?
Yeah, I think this has been covered. Call your alderperson or contact the Public Works Department. Jerry Kaiser is the head of that. But have you been on Forest Avenue yet? You should try to take try to bike down it one time. It's basically just gravel in spots. It's pretty rough. But so that's basically it.
Is Forest Avenue on the CIP? Trick question, I'm sorry.
I should look it up.
And moving on. Okay, this question will go to Jeff first. Let's look to the future. What do you envision Neenah looking like in 10 years, in 20 years?
Well, I would say in 10 years, hopefully it wouldn't change too much. I think we all kind of live and work here in Neenah for a reason. We do like the small town charm, so I wouldn't really want to see it, I shouldn't say that, I mean, I'd like to see it grow. We need to bring new stuff in, but I wouldn't want to see it get too far where there's big apartment buildings that block your views from different areas. What was the second part of?
10 years and 20 years?
Oh, 20 years. Ooh, okay, well, 20 years is hard to say. I mean, it's even 5, 10 years from now, I mean, who knows? I mean, we could have another COVID outbreak, and it could really stall things for years. It's kind of really hard to predict what 20 years from now. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be still a vibrant city, and I think downtown's going to be rocking like it is now.
Thank you. Mark?
I believe that the city will continue the course that it is, because if history teaches us anything, we've had great captains, we've had great crews, and we've had great passengers on the ship that we call Neenah. I'm happy that this past year I was able to serve on Neenah's 150th anniversary committee, where we looked at our past and our present and our future, and we celebrated 150 years, and we're still growing. And I think the future is going to continue to show that. Where it's going to end up, folks, we don't know. I mean, there were years past where we were presented with opportunities to take land from other community. Those avenues could present themselves. What we have to do is we have to balance, is that in the best interest for the city to look at those kind of endeavors? But the reason why they come to us is because we have been good stewards to the citizens to help grow the city's tax base. And from that standpoint, I see only positive for Neenah going forward, whether it be 10, 20, or 100 years.
Thank you. Kristen?
So my vision for Neenah would be that we continue to be a strong community with beautiful, clean drinking water and wonderful green spaces for kids to play for the next 10, 20, 30 years and beyond. Continue moving towards a more sustainable, ecologically and economically sustainable future. And maintain our small town charm where you don't have to sit at a traffic light for 20 minutes before you get to go a mile.
Thanks. Bill?
When you think ahead, I always think behind. I think, 10 years ago, 2014, the issues at that time were cars too fast on the street in Neenah. Some neighbor not liking that their tree was interrupted by another neighbor. We have issues here that anywhere else people would gravitate to have issues. And I see that happening more of the same because we got the great people of Neenah will keep that inertia going. And in 20 years, it's, by then we'll probably have our first robot council person, I'm predicting, and then I don't know in 20 years, but I'm expecting more of the same. History is kind of repeats itself when you have the right bunch of people.
Thank you. Okay, now we have time for an additional statement from each of you. You may have up to 1 minute. Don't feel like you have to fill the whole time. We'll start this time with you, Mark.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank everybody that came tonight. I would like to thank my colleagues to my right who are also running, because whether or not you always agree with your elected official or not, it isn't always the gravy train to sit behind these chairs. There's a lot of work involved that a lot of people don't see. And I think we need to have more of that. What I would hope for is that we would continue to work together so we don't have to act like the fools do in Washington, D.C., where one side is always right, one side is always wrong. I saw something earlier today that said some people see our country as blue and some people see it as red. Well, I see it as red, white, and blue, and I think that starts right here at home with Neenah, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen?
We know that Neenah will face challenges as we continue to grow and change. I will be solution-oriented, and I will strive to listen to the concerns of my District 1 neighbors while we work together to keep our community strong. I will never have all the answers to all the problems, but as your representative, I will seek out information, listen to ideas, and work towards compromises.
Thank you. William?
Well, I'll keep it short because we had a lot of talking here tonight. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and everybody who came here and all the fellow candidates for coming out on a beautiful evening when they could be outside enjoying this weather. I've been a resident of Neenah for 30 years. I love it. I've served in many different roles. I hope to serve in another role as an alderman for the District 3, and I would ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Jeff?
Again, I'd like to say thank you to the League of Women Voters and again the City of Neenah, and then all my counterparts up here. I said it's not, I don't think it's that easy sitting up here as people think it is, but it's really not. But again, just to reiterate, like I said, while I'm not a lifelong resident of Neenah, I have been a resident for the last 10 years. And if I think, with that being said, if elected, I think I'll bring a unique perspective of the Common Council, just from experiences in the past, living in different communities, seeing how they have come across in different things. And then again, thank you.
Well, thank you all. On Tuesday, April 2nd, you may vote for one of the candidates in your respective district. And this concludes the forum for the Neenah Aldermanic Districts 1 and 3 tonight. We'll take a short break and then we'll have the school board forum. Thank you.